Alright, y'all, 5.3 Corona notes all about this word elimination. Think about it. What does it mean to eliminate something? It means to get rid of it. And that's what we're trying to do here. Before we were substituting, this I think is even easier because it's just eliminating opposite terms. Like, think about it. What is 2 plus negative 2? It's 0. They would cancel each other out. What is 18 plus negative 18? They would cancel it out. It would be 0. It works the same way when you're dealing with x's. So like negative 2x and positive 2x would cancel each other out and they would be going away as a 0. And yeah, it's 0x, but 0 times anything is 0. So that doesn't matter. Okay? Alright, so what we're going to do here is if opposite terms line up, we're just going to add down. I know that's hard to see. Add down and then divide to find one variable. Find that, plug it back into either one of these two equations to solve it for the other variable. So right here, again, my opposite terms line up, and they are going to cancel each other out. And then I'm just literally going to add down, so I can replace it with a plus sign and just add down. 3x plus 3x is 6x. Again, those cancel. Don't write 0y. They just go away. Equals 4 plus negative 4, which is 0. This is something that some of you are going to think, oh, that's not possible. But if this was a 12, you would divide both sides, you'd be fine. You still divide both sides, just like I said, divide to find one variable. And 0 divided by anything just tells you that x equals 0. Okay? Now, again, the next step is to plug that back into either equation. I always look for the easier of the two. I don't like minus signs, so if I can deal with a plus sign, like in that first one, I'm going to do that. So I've got 3. Again, I'm plugging it into here. I'm going to rewrite it first. And I'm going to plug 0 in right there for x, because that's what I found. So 3 times 0 plus 2y equals 4. 3 times 0 is just 0. That goes away. 2y equals 4. Well, of course, I would divide both sides by 2 to get y equals 2. And then the last thing I want you to do is just, well, we're going to write all of these points as x comma y. So I'm going to write 0 comma 2. Simple as that. Okay? Alright, so as I go on to the next set here, again, those are opposites. They cancel. And I can just add down. 3 plus negative 1 is 2y equals 4 plus negative 8. Again, this is not minus negative, it's plus negative 8. Gives me negative 4. And I would divide here to get y equals negative 2. And now again, I'm going to go plug it back into either one of these two. And again, when I plug it into y, this plus, if this minus here is going to mess me up with a negative, I don't want that. So negative 2x plus 3 times, I'm plugging it into this first line right here. Negative 2 equals 4. I'm going to get negative 2x plus negative 6 equals 4. And hopefully you remember how to solve these because we've been doing them all year. You take the opposite of what's being attached to the number first by adding or subtracting. The opposite of a plus negative 6 is just a plus 6 to both sides. Those cancel. Negative 2x equals 10. And then you divide to get x to be negative 5. And that creates the point, again, xy of negative 5, negative 2. Simple as that. Okay? Once you press pause, I've already circled the ones that are the opposites in the next one. Try out, see on your own, come back and check. Alright, so we're going to add down because those cancel. That's 6y equals 12. I'm going to divide by 6 here to get x equals 2. Go back and plug that in. Doesn't matter. Sorry, I had a little Captain Sunday today. It's getting me in the throat here. Plug the x in right there. Equals 7. I've got 6 plus 2y equals 7. Okay, or what am I doing here? What am I doing here? I just found y. Well, that's dumb. I gotta plug y into y, not into x, sillies. So don't do that. Okay, let's try this again. We'll plug in 2 right there. Right? In for y. Or y right here. Doesn't matter. I'm going to get 3x plus 4 equals 7. I'm going to minus 4 to both sides. And divide to get x equals 1, which gives me the point 1, 2. Now, I keep saying you could plug it into the other equation too. I'm going to kind of do this in my head. But if I plugged it in here, 4 times 2 would be 8. I'd minus 8 over here, and 5 minus 8 would be negative 3. Divided by negative 3, I'd still get 1. Right? When I plugged in negative 2 into this first one, I could have plugged it in here, and a negative become a positive 2. Subtract it to the other side to get negative 10. Divided by 2, I'd still get negative 5. Right? Even on this one, if I plugged in 0 here, and I just solved this equation, I'd divide negative 4 by negative 2, and I would still get 2. So I could plug it into either equation. All right, so that's the easy way. That's if they just already have common terms that are opposite. In the rest of this though, we don't. Like look here, there's nothing that we can just cancel. But if we multiply a line by something, like say if we multiply this 4 by a -2, then I get -8, and that would cancel with that. If I look at this one, and I multiply this line by -2, then I would get a +2 to cancel with this one. If I look at this one, and maybe I multiply this by a +2, then I get 6 to cancel with -6. Or even this with -2 to get +10 to cancel with that -10. There's a whole lot of things that you could do, but as we go through here, we're going to write down the steps. So the first step here is multiply, and this is going to be a long one, right? Step 2 and 3 are kind of small. Multiply an entire row or line or both rows, we're going to see that on the next page, okay, by a number that will create opposites. And eliminate from both lines. Okay, so that brings me to, let's start taking a look at some of these. And I know there's 3 problems here, and typically I will have you try one on your own, but I'm going to just kind of run through it. So for this line again, if I times this line by 2, I got to times the whole thing by 2. So I'm just going to write that right below this line, because I know that if I times this by 2 I get -20x, and that doesn't outweigh the x, but in the y, 3 times 2 gives me +6y, and then 1 times 2 is 2. Again, you have to multiply everything. That's where students get in trouble, is they'll remember to multiply these two but forget that one and get weird answers. I'm not going to give you weird answers. They're all going to be whole numbers. If you get decimals, you did something wrong. Look back and see if you multiplied everything. And now look, here's my opposites. They cancel. Add these two down. Listen, you already changed this one to make it this, so that's really not what you're using here. You're using these two. So -5 and -20 is -25x equals, well, that gives me 25, and I divide by -25 to get x equals -1. Now again, what did we do with that? Okay, so first of all, I just did a whole step without even doing it. We rewrote this equation, and then we eliminated, right? So rewrite, add down, like we just did, okay, to find one variable, or letter if you prefer, right? Okay, so we just did that. What do I do with that now? Of course, we plug that number in to either equation, like we just talked about at the top, okay, to solve for other variable. Okay, a little longer than I want it to be with this, but now what I do here, again, is go back and plug it in to this x or that x, and really neither of them are that simple, so we'll just plug it into the top one, plus 3y equals 1. This is 10 plus 3y equals 1, minus 10 to both sides, because we always subtract, sorry, you couldn't see that. I plug -1 in right here for x, okay, and I got negative times negative gave me positive. The opposite of positive 10 is to subtract 10 from both sides, because we always do the subtraction or addition first, and then you always divide last. And I get -3, and there's my answer, -1, -3, because the last thing we want to do is write it as a point. Okay, alright, so let's try the next one. Can you see what we got to do here? Let's just times this line by -2. Okay, now in this case, I'm going to rewrite both of these. I've got 8x minus 5y equals 11. And when I times each of these terms by -2, I get -8x, which is what I wanted. I get a +6y, and I get a -10. Right? These will cancel, my opposites. -5 plus 6y is 1y, and 11 minus 10 is 1. Well, that's pretty easy. We divide that, and we get y equals 1. Okay. Now, again, go back and plug it in. It doesn't matter if you plug it into the top one or the bottom one. I'm just going to plug it into the top because I would keep doing it. 5 times 1 equals 11. Show your work here. 5 times, excuse me, that's a minus sign. 5 times 1 is 5. The opposite of minus 5 is to add 5 to both sides, which again is going to make sense because then when I divide by 8, I get a nice number. If you had accidentally put a plus sign here and tried to minus it, you get 6/8, and that's not what we're going to get, not getting fractions or decimals. And 2, 1 is my solution. Maybe press pause a second. I've already told you what you could do here. Press pause a second. Try this problem out. Come back and check. I could maybe even, if I times this line by 3 and this line by 2, I'd get 6 and 6. So maybe if one of them is negative, then maybe we'll do that on the next page. For this, I'd look at this term right here. And to get the opposite of negative 2, I'd have to times this by a negative 2. Because that will give me a positive 2y here to cancel. So I get negative 4x plus 2y equals 4. The other one I didn't do anything to, so I'll just rewrite it. I see my terms that'll cancel. This gives me negative 1x equals 6. Divide to get x to be negative 6, right? Go back and plug that back in. I keep plugging it into the first one, so maybe just for once I'll plug it into that second one. Not that it matters. I had multiplied it. I do the opposite because this is, again, same steps over and over and over. And then divide to get negative 10. And there's my point, negative 6, negative 10. Okay. This is already a little longer than I wanted it to be, but that's all right. We're going to go to the next page and do more of the same stuff, but really just a little bit more. But it's still the same stuff. Look, it's giving you more of these directions, but this is meaning the same stuff. This just is saying find opposites by multiplying one or both lines, which we're going to see here. Add or subtract to get it to eliminate, solve for the one variable, and then plug that other one in. Write your answer as xy. So when I look here, I can't just times 2 by something and get the opposite of 3. I can't times 5 by something and get the opposite of 11. So what I'm going to do is multiply both lines. And think of a number that 2 and 3 go into. 6, because 2 times 3 is 6, right? So if I times this by 3 and times this by 2, I'm going to get negative 6 and positive 6. And that's what I want. Again, I want opposites here. So if I times the 3 through, I get negative 6x minus 15y equals 27. If I times the 2 by, I get 6x plus 22y equals 8. Again, you got to make sure that you multiply it into every single term. There's my opposites. Bye. Negative 15 plus 22 is 7y. 27 plus 8 is 35. We divide. Y is 5. Go plug that in. So I got 3x plus 11 times 5 equals 4. Again, I could plug it in the first or second, but I see a lot of negatives in that first one. I just don't like that. So 3x plus 55 equals 4, minus 55 from both sides, and then divide. X is negative 17. There it is. The answer is negative 17 comma 5 because, again, it's x comma y, right? Okay. All right, let's try another one here. On the next one, what is a number that both 9 and 6 will go into? Because 2 and 13 are kind of gross. Or maybe I just times this by 13 and that by 2, but 39 times 13 seems like a huge number. So let's think about, I could go 9 times 6 is 54. They both go into that. Or what does 9 and 6 both go into, right? 9, 18, 27, 36, 6, 12, 18, 24. Oh, check it out. They both go into 18. Okay, cool. So if I times this by 2 and I times this by 3, I'm going to get 18 and 18. Except one of them has to be negative. I don't care. I always just stick it on the second one. But it doesn't matter if you want to do it first or second. But it can't be both, right? Because this is going to give me 18x plus 4y equals 78. That's what 39 times 2 is. This negative 3 is negative 18x. Now again, now I have opposites. That's what I needed, right? Negative 3 times 13 is negative 39y. Positive 27. When I add down here, so 4 plus negative 39 is negative 35y. 27, let's see, I add that, borrow, carry that, I get 105, which again, works out kind of nice, because even though it looks funky, if you divide that in your calculator, you get y equals negative 3. Okay? Now, you go back and plug that in like we've been doing. Right there, 9x plus 2 times negative 3 equals 39. 9x plus negative 6 equals 39. The opposite of a negative 6 is a positive 6. and then we always divide. So I get 5, negative 3. Go ahead and pause it. Try the next one. Remember, you're going to multiply both lines by something. Maybe find a number that both 12 and 8 go into, or 7 and 11 go into, and multiply each line by that, and go from there. Okay? Press pause. Try it out. Alright, so if I times this by 11 and this by 7, I'm going to get negative 77 and positive 77. And that is one way to do it. But then I'm going to get some other big numbers like 12 times 11 and 7 times 30 and stuff. I am instead going to say 12, 24, 36, 48, 8, 16, 24, 32. Oh, they both go into 24. So if I times this by 2 and I times this by 3, I'm going to get 24 and 24. Again, they need to be opposites. So if they don't have opposite signs, you got to make these opposite signs. And you know, I times by a negative second on this one. I'm going to times by a negative first on this one. It doesn't matter which one you attach it to, but one of them has to be an opposite. So I'm going to multiply that through negative 24x. Negative times a negative gives me positive 14y. Negative times a negative gives me positive 4. 3 times 8 is 24x. Again, now I can see the opposites that are going to cancel. Plus 33y equals 90. These add up to give me 47y. These add up to give me 94. And again, works out kind of nice because that is just 2. Now I take that y and I plug it back into either one of those. Again, I don't like to mess with minuses, but I'm going to do it anyway. 7 times 2 equals negative 2. 12x minus 14 equals negative 2. Do the opposite to both sides. And it should work out for us, and it does. It doesn't always work out, but in our world, for what I'm going to give you, it will. Okay? All right, now, you can go back and check these answers by just plugging them in if you want, right? If I plug in 1 into x and 2 into y, I get 8 plus 22, yep, that works. I get 12 minus 14, yep, that works. If I plug that in, I get 45 minus 6, yep. I get 30 plus negative 39, which gives me negative 9, and so on. It can just check it that way. Okay. All right. So I think we got chapter 5 from here. Okay. Go ahead and work on the Corona homework that I'm attaching here, which is 9 problems where you are going to just look for opposites and cancel them. Right. Look for opposites, cancel them. When you don't see opposites, you're going to have to times the line. Maybe you times that by negative 3 to get x's to cancel. Here, you're going to probably have to multiply both lines. In fact, there's no probably about it. You for sure are. And maybe you go negative 2 and 3. Maybe you go 2 and negative 3. Maybe you go 3 and negative 4. Maybe you go negative 3 and negative 4 to cancel the y's. However you want to do that. Okay? You're going to have to do both of them on this one too. This is real nice because those just cancel right away. Okay? Maybe you're timesing something here. You're timesing something here. I don't want to give too many away, but this is the homework for it. There are 9 problems. Do your thing. Stay up. 2 more weeks. Have a good one. Love you guys.